So our last presenter, last but not least presenter in this session is Mark Toth. Mark is with Skyline Architects, and he's going to be talking about the misconceptions of the cost of adding bird-safe glass to new construction. Mark, thanks for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, everybody, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be part of this. I think it's something that I could speak really passionately about. We're Skyline, we are a manufacturer of decorative architectural glass, and obviously we're a business, we're a manufacturer. We want to make as much glass as possible, which is wonderful. But, as a manufacturer, we get into a lot of different things from a decorative standpoint on glass. And we have a history of producing decorative glass mainly for interior applications. And that's been for about almost 43 years now. And I've been in the business for about almost 39. So pretty much grown up with the company at Skyline. But, where I've really become aware of bird collision issues in glass is really going back almost 25 years ago. As a young kid going out on the road doing sales presentations, I was actually going to a presentation at SOM in downtown Chicago, and I'm walking down Michigan Avenue carrying a 70-pound sample case of glass. And right in front of me at my feet fell a bird that I didn't recognize. It was something that I never saw before. And he was still alive, but he was definitely stunned. And I picked him up and looked to my right on Michigan Avenue. There was a Dunkin' Donuts. And I took that bird inside the Dunkin' Donuts, got a paper bag, put him in the bag, went up, did the presentation at SOM, and the bird was actually fluttering around in the bag during my presentation and causing a commotion. But after that presentation, one of the architects came up to me and said, "Hey," and they were a birder, and they said, "It's a North American woodcock, and there's a bird sanctuary near what is now, well, it was Meigs Field at the time." And I took it there, and that's where they really made me aware of really the bird collision issue in architecture in Chicago. And a lot of that was just due to colliding in glass. And, back then it really wasn't an issue as far as creating ordinances on glass to protect birds and things like that. But fast forward to where we're at now, it's something that obviously we're seeing more and more of. So, Skyline as a company, we are based in Chicago. We are a local manufacturer of decorative architectural glass. We have about 125,000 square feet of production facility where everything is made here. We support the local economy. We support the neighborhood. Many of our employees here are local to the neighborhood. We are in the Humboldt Park neighborhood of Chicago. But we produce everything in-house. And, like I said earlier, we've got most of our background is in interior decorative applications, but we think of glass as a canvas. And about 10 years ago, we introduced our bird-safe products called SkySafe. And essentially what we're doing is we're taking our technology, which is, we call it an eco-etch process, and we are etching pattern on the number one surface of the glass, which is optimal for birds to see, just the contrast between the matte finish and the gloss finish of the glass to avoid collisions. And what's unique to that is, as you see on this picture here, this is a facade that we did a number of years ago for Lehigh University. We don't have to stick to just dots and squares and lines. We could really customize that pattern to create something that's a little bit more interesting as opposed to, those typical dots and lines and squares. We could definitely do that, but it's just one of our specialties that we have developed over the years. So we could work on insulated units. We could work on monolithic glass units, laminated glass units for railing applications and canopies. A lot of people are talking about building facades, but there's a lot of railing applications out there that we have issues with birds colliding. So just land bridges from buildings to buildings, those are huge issues. And a lot of times they're straddling landscape parks and things like that. So, that's something that we have the ability to treat. So it's a unique process. And then the other unique process that Skyline has, I think number one, there's not a lot of bird safe glass manufacturers out there, especially for new construction. There's a lot of coordination that has to happen within the manufacturing industry, logistics, things like that you have to factor in, which increases costs. What we have the ability to do is take a finished insulated unit and etch the number one surface of the glass so that basically it saves a lot of logistics, it saves a lot of coordination. Again, it allows much more flexibility from a design standpoint, from an architect or a designer. It just opens up the doors in terms of what can be done. And the process that we are providing is a unique process to Skyline. So most manufacturers that are etching glass are etching with hydrofluoric acid, which hydrofluoric acid is horrible as it sounds. It takes a lot of effort to neutralize that acid at the end of the production process. It's very dangerous to work with. Handling and things like that can be very tricky. And there's not a lot of manufacturers doing it globally. We, as a company, have developed a process called eco-etching, where essentially we're taking aluminum oxide powder that if you held it in your hand, it feels like baby powder. It's very soft. You would never really even think it could abrade the surface of the glass. But what we're doing is we're essentially spraying that aluminum oxide powder at the surface of the glass and taking away the shine. So you're creating this matte gloss finish. And that's where we can achieve the bird safe patterning in glass. But we can take it one step further. So just this example of this pattern on the glass, that is a pattern that was created through an Illustrator file. So what we have the ability to do is take an Illustrator file that an architect or designer can give us, and then we can basically lay down a stencil or resist via a digital print process, and then create a positive negative image. And where that glass is exposed clear, that gets etched, and where it's printed, that remains clear, and we'll wash off that resist at a certain point. But again, it creates just a whole level of flexibility in terms of what architects and designers can do. So this next slide here just shows a number of different patterns that we've done with different threat levels and things like that. But the general rule of thumb is if you're working within that 2x2, 2x4 area, you're going to meet that threat level. So this example here, this is a beautiful project that we recently completed. This is Kresge College in Santa Cruz, California. We worked with Studio Gang out of Chicago on this project. And you can see we are in the middle of a forest. So the university had a massive problem with bird collisions. And on some of the new buildings that were designed and built, they wanted to address that. And what Studio Gang did was something just really unique from a design standpoint. You could see, the dots on the pattern or on the glass that in reality aren't dots. Studio Gang took our technology and what we could do with the glass and just took it to another level. And what they did is incorporated artwork, again, Illustrator files, and they designed images that are insects and reptiles and animals that live within this forest, and just created a really unique bird safe pattern as an alternate to your standard dots and lines and grids and things like that. So it's just a really unique project, a unique way in how that was actually produced. But one of the things that we always get questioned on in construction, construction and cost go hand in hand, is the perception that adding bird-safe glass to new construction is very expensive. And that really just, what we've seen, unless there's an ordinance or a mandate that bird-safe glass has to be used on new construction, depending on what city you're in, most builders and building owners and real estate companies, they shy away from it because of the perceived high cost of it. Chicago is an example. I'm sure most of you know. I mean, Chicago is the bird kill capital globally. And we don't have an ordinance. We're working hard to get an ordinance here. But I think the awareness of the issue with the birds, and everybody obviously is definitely aware of the McCormick Place issue. That's happening day after day. And, right now we're in migratory season and we have people cleaning up the birds every day around the buildings of the city before everybody's going into the office. It's just a massive issue. So people are moving forward, ordinance or no ordinance, and applying bird-safe glass in their projects. And a good example is the Thompson Center, which was originally designed by Helmut Jahn back in the mid 80s. Google is now taking over the space. They're renovating it. It's all new glazing on the facade of the building. There is bird-safe glass going up to about 60 feet on the building. And of the whole budget of the project, we're right around 260 million for the construction budget. And most of that is just retrofitting new glass and things like that. The cost for the bird-safe markings up to 60 feet is about $500,000. So that equates to about 0.2% of the total construction budget. It's very minimal. And what we have been seeing, and just on studies and things like that, is the cost of adding bird-safe glass is anywhere from, on average, 0.38% up to 1% of the total construction budget, just depending on how big it is. But at the end of the day, it's very small. You have to think of the landscaping that goes in around a project. That is about anywhere from 5 to 10% of the total cost, so much higher. And that's actually at attracting birds that could potentially collide it to the building. So, it's in the whole scheme of things, it's very minimal. Excuse me. Another project that we're working on right now is UIC Taft Hall. You've got 27.7 million as a construction budget. $100,000 is for bird safe marking. So again, you're at 0.3% of the total construction budget. And then lastly, project again that we have going on right now is Northwestern University Jacob Hall in Evanston, which does have a bird safe ordinance. The glazing package on the project is right about 6 million. And the cost for the bird safe markings is about 75,000. So just the glazing package of that, we're at 1.25% of the total glazing package. So again, when you factor in the construction budget, we're still within that about 0.5% of the total glazing package. So again, the perceived costs are very low, or actually very low. And I think it's just up to us to really just open up the discussion more to make people more aware of what the actual costs are in the actual construction budget. Okay, so thanks everybody.